So one thing we wanted to share in this webinar series was the possibility of advocacy in the pilgrimages. The pilgrimages are an opportunity to journey, an interior journey, to connect with others, to have an encounter with God, whether that be in nature or a special site. But there can also be opportunities to advocate for care for creation amongst our own communities, to local governments, to state governments, to federal governments. And we wanted to kind of break that open a little bit for any group who would like to include advocacy in their pilgrimage. Pope Francis said, "Politics, according to the social doctrine of the Church, is one of the highest forms of charity because it serves the common good. We all have something to give. A good Catholic meddles in politics, offering the best of himself, so that those who govern can govern." The church has a long history of um, being engaged in the public sphere and advocating for what it believes. Another quote from Pope Francis that I think is particularly interesting, he says, "We need to participate for the common good." Sometimes we hear a good Catholic is not interested in politics. This is not true. Good Catholics immerse themselves in politics by offering the best of themselves so that their leaders can govern. The official kind of kickoff, you could say, of Catholic social teaching, or kind of beginning to formalize Catholic social teaching in the Catholic Church, comes from Pope Leo the 13th. That is not our current Pope Leo, if you were confused. That is Pope Leo the 13th from the 1800s. And the document, the encyclical that he wrote, was Rerum Novarum in 1891. And that was, at the time, that was during the Industrial Revolution. And that document talked a lot about the rights of workers, labor rights. A lot of times there was a lot of child labor going on right there. Um, and it said, it was kind of the church saying, we have to be involved in the public sphere, and the church needs to have an opinion and needs to be engaged in this. And yes, we have a voice, and we're going to voice it. And so the church throughout history has advocated for the poor and vulnerable, and you can find that in the scriptures. In the Exodus story, when God hears the cry of the Hebrew slaves, he calls on Moses to advocate to Pharaoh for the Hebrews. In the law, there are special protections for the vulnerable, for widows, for orphans, for foreign residents. The Sabbath and the Jubilee years included provisions for liberation, redistribution of wealth, and the periodic reordering of society to protect the poor and to break cycles of domination. Debts were canceled, slaves were released. The prophets there are some amazing lines from the books of the prophets about advocating for justice. The prophet Micah called us to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. And of course, we see it in the New Testament. Jesus came to set captives free, to bring good news to the poor, to the recovery of sight to the blind. And he was continually in conflict with both religious leaders of the time, especially with religious leaders of the time, over what the law meant and what it was for and who it served. This quote is from the official compendium of the social doctrine of the church. It says, "Advocating for social justice concerns the social, political, and economic aspects, and above all, the structural dimension of the problems and their respective solutions." The Bishops' Conference here in the United States has given us an image to talk about both advocacy and charity. You see it's called the 2 feet of love in action. One is social justice and one is charitable works. And the idea is that we have to use both our feet to walk together. And by using both of these, by exercising both of these, we walk together in love. A lot of this came out of Pope Benedict's encyclicals, God is Love and Charity and Truth. These say that charitable works are the first response to immediate need, and they represent 1 foot of love in action. But advocacy works to get at the root causes and to change structures. It goes beyond gifts of charity, which are important, and it encourages the adoption of public policies that serve justice and help those who suffer. It's a ministry of action, of speaking out. It's a ministry of caring for all people, regardless of society's judgments of their worthiness. And it motivates us to advocate for policies that contribute to social justice and to peace for all people. And so we just wanted to share a little bit about kind of the history of the church, teaching on advocacy and engaging in the public sphere, and kind of what both the bishops' conferences and popes and others have talked about.